Ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our next session. As I say, this is all about future design, genre and gameplay, future in Web3 gaming, jumping into a topic which we really haven't kind of unpacked them until now. Again, an intriguing session all about this topic, again, to kind of get us up to date with the challenges, but more so how we're going to move forward with this one. Ladies and gentlemen, let's round of applause for our panelists and our moderator as well. Please welcome on stage Greg Jakubiak, Sangho Grolleman, Jérôme Moret, Nico Raito, and our moderator Jacek Studencki.
Hello everybody. Gamers unite. I'm gonna give you 1 minute to gather around. Yesterday somebody argued with me that we are a Web3 community. I would say the community would sit closer together and be a bit more bullish about what's happening. I would like to start a short introduction to get these people around here. My father, because fathers are important, that's the hashtag, taught me one word: serendipity. It's the right people coming together in one place at the right time. And I cannot express how important this is. This is why I'm really counting that more people will join us, because this is a historic opportunity. I don't want to screw up on the questions. Because together in one room, we have Greg Jakubiak from Ireland, an interactive DAO, one of the first games. We have Sangho Grolleman, the CEO of Cryptopia, also one of the first in its own way. Then we have Jérôme Moret from Kickdom, also kind of a first one in its own. I will let you guys talk about where you're first in. And last but not least, Nico Rajkovic, the product manager of Decentraland, also one of the first in its way. So yeah, more, come over, gather around, brothers and sisters. So without further ado, let's just dive into it. As I said, each of your projects is in a way first. So I would like you to introduce yourselves and one sentence containing the word first for each of you.
Okay, so
Greg, start, yeah.
I'll start with the intro there. Right, so my name is Greg. I'm the partnership manager with Pirates of Ireland. So I stick closely with the game producer Norbert, who is a long-time friend of mine. We know each other for over 15 years. And we've met through an online game, basically. And you know, this relationship kind of evolved over the years, and we are still good friends. We communicate keenly. About Pirates...
It's relationship-based, right?
It's relationship-based, yes, to a point. And the project we have, Ireland, it's an ecosystem of games. It revolves around the RAM token, which is a utility game token. We have NFTs introduced in our game. The game is browser-based. It's a strategy in which you can rival other players. You can mine resources. And as you interact with the game environment, the total pool is being burnt so that the token is deflationary. And this is, you know, the amount of token, it can only decrease in time. So we have a setup as a simulation. It's fully scalable. And we are introducing certain qualities to the game as we go.
Educational and economic, right?
Correct, correct. It's a strategy game, so you can expect that. And we also have a type of multiplayer online battle royale. It's a third-person shooter right now. We have 3 maps introduced. It's fully workable. So we have the servers up and running. It's fully playable. We have multiple communities, and we are working closely with people in the Web3 guilds, gaming guilds, the people who are gamers themselves, and they would like to see, you know, gaming propel forward from just Web2 gaming, the traditional one, into this better state, which has smart contracts introduced for the game production cycles, for the game currency loops, things that we can capitalize upon and improve upon.
Thank you. Sangho, Cryptopia.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Sangho Grolleman. So I'm Dutch, so this is very easy for me here in Amsterdam. I even came by bicycle, so it was really nice not to fly into conference, but go by bike. I work for Cryptopia. I'm the CEO. I need to use the word first, right? So we
Not
are
mandatory, but yeah, we're trying to, because you are first in a way.
absolutely.
From the
So,
video I saw, this was just playing in my mind. that
Yeah.
each of you is the
So
first
we
one.
are the first fully decentralized game, Web3 game out there. So we run without central game servers. So we don't use Amazon or Microsoft or whatever centralized party. And I'll explain later in this panel why we took so much effort to try that. I also believe we are the first Web3 game that makes it really like free-to-play and earn, that you can monetize your time. So you don't need to buy an NFT, you don't need to buy tokens. We believe in a fair exchange of value. So if you spend time with us, you add value to our platform, and we think that you should be rewarded for that without having to pay. So I'll keep it at that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jérôme.
Yes, nice to meet you all. So I am Jérôme. I am also a CEO and co-founder of Kickdom. I'm from Paris, and I'm working on Kickdom. We're working on Kickdom for 3 years now. Kickdom is the first mobile game blending two types of game. You have tycoon game and football management game with a mix of FIFA / Mario Strikers game. All of this on mobile, and allow both Web2 and Web3 people to play together with a real gameplay and real funny game. And just had a little thing is that sorry, I just missed. Sorry.
Never mind. Take your time. I think for each one of us, English is a second language. So
Yeah.
if you need a breather, take one. No problem.
Thank you.
So should I go next?
Nico.
Yeah. So my name is Nico. I'm from Argentina, but I also live here in Amsterdam for a few years. And I'm the head of product at the Decentraland Foundation. And one fun fact mentioned the word first is that in the definition of an NFT, the Decentraland NFTs are mentioned like as an example of what an NFT is, basically. So yeah, kind of also pioneering this space in a very interesting project. I'm happy to be part of this panel with these amazing people.
All right. That's it. Happiness and hype aside, now we get to the tough questions. Web3 loves big words, and I had to write them down not to forget. Player-owned, self-governed, persistent online economy. Is it a utopia or is it a viable possibility? It's part one of the question. Second part, how do you see scaling your game beyond Web3? And if so, what are the obstacles to gaining user acquisition? So one, is it even viable? And then how do you address it? And what are the hurdles?
So we only have 36 minutes, right? So that's going to be tough then. But to
We
kick
have
it off.
4 questions, and if we take, I counted, if we each take 4 minutes to answer, there's still some time for the audience, but let me.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. It's absolutely possible. But I think we need to start tuning our business models in a different way. Because if you still use the old traditional business model of treating consumers as walking money bags, trying to squeeze them for money, it's not going to work. Because we are now of an open economy, and if people are not rewarded for the value they add into your ecosystem, they will extract value and your ecosystem will collapse. So you can only succeed in a really player-to-player economy. And I know there are a lot of buzzwords, but just keep reminding or remembering if you do something that's adding value, you should be rewarded with something in return. Because if, at the moment that exchange of value stops, you start to become less interesting probably, or less motivated to be in that ecosystem and to do your thing. So that's I think a really important one. And to be able to reward people for that time, and that's a tricky one. That's a whole different way of viewing to how you treat your consumer, right? Because you are used to asking them for money. Now you ask them to add time and you are paying them money. So that's a whole different way of thinking. And we believe, and that's why we built it for almost 5 years now, that that's possible. but you should treat your community or your consumer base in a different way. That's my
Thank
take
you. I
on
think
the
it's
topic.
very important. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Who's next?
In my opinion, I think the buzzwords are fine when we are like accomplishing and being true to those promises. Because if it's only buzzwords and are taken by the wind, then the user is not stupid, so they will enter, they will see it, expecting something, and those expectations will not be met. So I think that's where sometimes we drop the ball, and it's important that if we use these fast words, we use them with responsibility and actually give something that provides value to the user.
All right, and Jérôme, you have a specific business to build. You're attacking some of the big games known from Web 2 and consoles. How do you address that?
Yes, from my opinion, Web3 allow many things that casual games actually does not allow. At first, ownership. That for the moment, as you know, if you buy some assets or something like that on FIFA or other games, it doesn't you for at final. So that's the first thing. About the earning process, in my opinion, the play-to-earn models it's not available in the long-term strategy. But I'm convinced that the little earn can add very particular things inside the game. It's like when, for example, you play a poker party with your friends. If it's free, it's cool, okay, we are with friends. But if you add a little bit of money, even if it's just €1 or €10, it's totally a different game, different party. And that's,
But you're not playing for the big bucks, just having some little money on the way, right?
Exactly. It's not the same party. It's not the same game. And it allows too to integrate governance with these models and allow players to really participate inside the game and be rewarded with the time and investment inside is spent inside the game. That's the real difference between both Web 2 and Web 3 games for the moment.
Right, and Greg, what are the obstacles and your dreams for our land?
Well, look, I'm a gamer since of old, and I started pretty early, and I was adopting, on games on different consoles. I was going to like electronic markets on which you had pirated games because I couldn't afford none, and that was a long time ago. And I will tell you, I've been through the creation of Steam, Epic Games, whatever you call it. So the state in which we have the traditional gaming right now is that we have the user aggregation, but this user aggregation does not transpire the quality of product which is being delivered to users, and not anymore. Because since past 10 years, the production cycles, the quality has been steadily declining actually. And the revenue models had been changing. And the question is, where does blockchain fit in all of this? How can smart contracts basically improve on the user aggregation models to attract new players? Because a traditional player would play the game because they find it entertaining, right? Or they find interest in it. That's why you have specific types of people whom the games attract. You can have a guy who will be playing single-player games. You can have a guy who will be playing strategies. You can have a guy who will just do hack and slash, and you can have some people playing Madden, NFL, or FIFA, and they could be sitting all day long in front of FIFA just trading cards, right?
You're
and
building to my next question. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So, to each his own, but we are looking for certain universal aspects of smart contracts that would improve on the quality of the existing products in traditional gaming as they are. Because we are seeing that even though you may have those big communities, like they are not delivering anymore. Like they don't count. The game's journalism has been in decline. And to be honest, it doesn't make sense even if you give out the reviews. Like the reviews are just reviews. Like there is no real discussion on the forums about the quality.
Less and less trustworthy, by the way, right? You can have
correct.
AI-generated fake reviews now.
Yes, exactly. So it's like I'm reading Metacritic, and I see AI-generated reviews outweighing the negative reviews, and that's biased, and I cannot allow it. fortunately for us, in Web3, that's not quite frankly possible. Because if a project is bad, then it will just go stale pretty fast, and its value will drop. If it goes over the cycles, and it retains the users, then that means there's some prominency in that. You know, and it's much harder to fake a review for a Web3 game, I think, than it is for a traditional one nowadays.
Yeah, it is much easier, and we saw, and I even fell prey to one of those, I'm sure. But I put it as a question 1.1, and it will be a short one, mindful of time. But it seems like each of you guys, in terms of scaling and user acquisition, that you are fighting for a slightly different demographic. Could you very shortly describe, even for the people in the audience, I mean, especially for you guys, if you're looking for new players, if somebody hasn't tried, then we are for. And for Web3 natives, Web2 natives, for skeptics, for the, you know, social, for whom are you and who are you hoping to attract?
So
we can start, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I can start. So with Pirates, we have an international community. We have a Discord on which we have different rooms labeled for different languages. The people interact there that are getting into the gaming ecosystem in order to see the strategy developed, in order to see the resources being used, burned, to be visible on contract, to see those interactions and see how it's just you know, just being rolled out like.
So you don't have geographical, you don't have borders, you have many national communities in one international server.
Yes, we do. We do that, just that.
In terms of lifestyle attitudes, what do they believe in? Are they, you know, any specific, or as you said, they can be.
I will tell you this. You know, like obviously you may always have the people in the ecosystem that will be there and will be staying, and they are the ones that are. You know, dedicated to
they will choose their own, yeah, their favorite.
Seeing the game develop, because they have their own, not only a financial incentive, but they have incentive to change things, and they have a different perception of things. So the type of people you can basically attract at a given stage of the product is different, right? This product that we have, Pirates of Ireland, we are still in early stages of adoption. Just last year, we had introduced the on-chain resources farming, so that when you perform actions on the browser-based version and you have your wallet tied to it, at the moment you use the RAM or burn or use the Matic on Polygon, because it's also based on Polygon, then it decreases the overall pool, the overall supply. That's right, and you know, as time grows, you know, we are able to see the difference in the economy, and the people will be able to see that this initial investment that they made increase. But in order to do that, you need to attract the users. And frankly, the token pool is big enough to simulate it over a period of anywhere from 3 to 9 years, right? So
You're playing the long-term game.
The strategy is there to be long phase. So this is not like a card gaming project. You know, it's much more complex, and it took us over 2 years to see the smart contracts realized in the form of the resource interactions and the players being able to interact with that, because we already had NFTs adopted pretty early, and we had a series of NFTs filed. So we had you know, the JPEGs. And we knew which qualities we would see those NFTs perform, specifically in the battle arena, that is multiplayer, or to be used, you know, for the resources farming on certain islands, for maybe the reproduction cycles, you know, seeing them grow. So we kind of had a vision of that, but you know, realizing it is a bit different thing. And I think that the game will attract more users as it's more mature, right? If it's mid-term developed and if it's late-term developed, and the question is whether the question is whether the economy is good enough to sustain it, because the economy is the most important aspect of the game if you want to keep it running, especially if it's coupled with smart contracts. Just NFTs, you know, like okay, but if you couple it with the total pool, right? It's a whole different story. I mean, there's much more, you know, ingredients to it, much more flavor, to say the least.
All right. Sangho, the next million users, where would they come from for Cryptopia?
So for us, we are a strategy game, so we are a mix of civilization, tycoon-style game. So I like your tycoon.
So you guys are similar, yeah.
Yeah. And an RPG. So we have several game modes. So top-down view of the world, similar to Civilization, the map, and you can zoom into each tile, into a mini world where you can walk around and do all kinds of stuff and quests. And our game is really built to connect people, so you can't progress alone. So you can draw your wallet and you can buy NFTs and stuff like that.
It's also a sociable people, right?
Yeah, but you can't make it productive on your own. You always need other gamers to help you make it productive, because, well, you can do it alone, but for instance, if I have a gold mine, I can, extract 1 gold a week. But if I hire other persons, then I can make 10 or 15, and those other people are getting rewarded by me, the owner. So we really cater to several type of people that want to spend money, and people that don't want to spend money or cannot spend money, or people that are hesitant and at first want to try our game, and that's perfectly fine, right? So you can download our game, you can just start it up, play it, and if you like it, maybe you stay, maybe you don't, and it's perfectly fine with us. We can't onboard all the gamers in the world, and I don't like all the games in the world, so it's perfectly fine with us. If you don't like our game, be gentle if you say it, of course, to me, but that's perfectly fine. So we target different how do you call it?
Demographics or psychographics?
Exactly. What we see now is that predominantly in Southeast Asia there are a lot of gamers, from the first play to earn wave, in there for the money, but that's okay, right, for us. So
it reminds me of our own game, but it's about you guys, not about me. But for those of you who have not seen their website, actually that mission video on your website is explaining the philosophy of free-to-play, because people who cannot afford anything else but a PC have a game where they can actually start building their own legacy, so to say.
Absolutely.
Free-to-play, investing their time and getting something in return.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah. So it's more than just a game. We also think sometimes we sort of educate people how to start financial planning, right? Because you earn a token and then you can decide what to do with it. You can extract it, sell it, or you can invest it and then, okay.
You build a civilization.
Based on what information are you going to invest it. So we're more than just a game sometimes.
And for Jerome, it's a bit more specific, because you were attacking, you're kind of, in my head, it's like you're trying to get the people from FIFA, from football tycoons, from football managers. How do you see your demographics?
Yes, exactly. For our demographic, well, our strategy is to onboard as many people all around the world. And as we are a little bit crazy, we already translate the game in 20 languages to be as smooth as possible for players. And about the marketing strategy is to onboard, we have 2 separate strategies. One for Web3 people, and one for Web2, as I said, it's a traditional players in reality.
Traditional football fans and gaming
fans.
Yes,
yes. For Web3 people, as you said, it's mainly for earning, for trading NFTs, for trading the token, etc. We all know that. For traditional player, it's very different. It's a traditional ads campaign. You have to be more focused on the gameplay, because traditional players won't just tap to earn money or something like that. So that's why we really work on the gameplay to be very fun, to retain people as long term as possible, with a seamless onboarding. So that's why we don't integrate right now, but it will be the case in next weeks, wallet connection. So you have to just, to create an account, connect with your Google, Facebook, Apple account or something like that. It's create a wallet for you, but if you if you are not in the Web3 space, you cannot notice that you are on blockchain. In the onboarding process, you have to mint NFTs, etc. It's your property, but you cannot see directly on the screen that you are on the blockchain. You can see transaction, etc. behind it, but our opinion is the blockchain must be just a layer stack, technical stack, and it's not be a friction for user acquisition, for gamers, etc. A game must be funny at first. That's our
Exactly,
opinion.
it's the future designs. Yeah.
Yes, that's
So
the
you,
future of
you manage virtual teams, but you can make real money
Exactly.
in your game. All right.
Exactly.
Thanks for that. Nico, and who are you aiming at to join Decentraland in the next year, 2, 3?
Yeah, so of course we attract gamers in the space, but we're not really positioning the brand as a gaming platform, at least not at the front. We're more positioning Decentraland as a social platform. So even though you can play games, but more of the strongest use cases that we are seeing at the moment are more parties, people getting together, and maybe someone giving a keynote, and you learn from a different topic. Yeah, if you've been to
Emoti Marketplace.
yeah, no, I know you've been to those parties, so those are really nice. And it's mainly like a place and the setup for people to socialize. So we got a really nice insight that I personally really like, which is that when someone connects with another person inside Central, like that bond is really strong, and that drives engagement pretty strongly. So of course we all want to keep players and users engaged, and we found out this insight that it's pretty strong. We're trying to like kind of help people to and make the environment so this is fostered, and it happens more and more and more every time. So yeah, that's basically what we are doing at the moment. I also agree with
social metaverse.
yeah, more social, and I also agree with what Jerome said, that blockchain should be more like an enabler, and that you can have your ownership, you can have your stuff, you can maybe take it to another place if you are like interacting with the same smart contracts. So that's great, but I agree that has to be something that under the hood doesn't have to be like on the front. On the front, people want to have fun, they want to socialize, they want to meet friends, they want to meet people online, they want to have their digital identity represented with their avatars. So those are the things that are stronger for us right now, and what we're trying to push.
All right, so you also, thank you very much. You also kind of pre-answered the second question, because one of the biggest criticism of Web3 gaming is that economic layer often takes priority over the gameplay experience. But if you would like to revisit that question, I mean, how do you ensure the game itself is engaging beyond just financial incentives? If you think that there is something left to be added to this question, please do.
Yeah, I'll add something. So it's more of a feeling that I have that it's about the philosophy of participating in this kind of entertainment. And it's same as in when you are developing a game, a traditional one, and you are looking for somebody to pay you for making that game. And you have a few different options. You can find an individual investor, someone who has stashed the money and he decides to invest in you. You can go to Kickstarter maybe, and you can ask the community there to fund it for you, right? And with Kickstarter and with the games that were funded there, you know, like not all of those games, especially indie ones, were funded by big studios. You had a single developer making a game for 7 consecutive years that came to be successful and sold 100,000 copies. And
crowdfunded all the way.
It was crowdfunded all the way. And it's this kind of feeling that I have that for those projects in Web3 to be successful, not only the game economy needs to be successful, the game development model needs to be successful, right? You cannot overspend on game development without having enough user engagement, because you're overbuilding the infrastructure, and because of lack of users, you will never get to use that infrastructure, and you will only realize it when it's frankly, you know, maybe too late, right? So it's like a very careful sidestepping, you know, it's a balancing act.
Get it? Anyone else wants to build on that?
Yeah, I agree that it's a balancing act. Also, we should not forget it's a completely new field, so you know, we are the first. We are really the pioneers doing this, so it's very difficult to draw parallels from the history because we simply don't know.
It's happening on this stage right now.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
I have mixed feelings because at the one side, blockchain should be in the game because otherwise we could just as well make traditional games, right? So there should be a differentiator in there, and I believe it should be also a monetary one or ownership, but tied to something that you can sell and then you can cash out. But of course it needs to be fun, but because nobody ever started to create a game that is not fun. You're not going to build something that is not fun on purpose, right? So to me, it's a sort of a hygiene factor that it should be fun. So the thing is, okay, how can we make sure that the monetary aspect is then, gamified and still fun? And I think that's the crux of the matter. And of course, we believe that we we got it. We cracked the code. I think we all believe it. But
I think what you said, Jerome, also about hiding that financial incentive layer and just having fun with the game, correct?
Yes, yes. And I totally agree. And I can add that the biggest difference for us, for founders, for all of us, I think, is that in Web3 industry, we have the beautiful opportunity to create some sales before to launch your game. To have early investors, etc., like crowdfunding, and it's very more difficult in traditional gaming industry. But a part of it is that you have to continually inform your community of what you are building, and this community in Web3, especially, I think, is that people want, and because the communication is like that in the world now, it's instant. So they think, okay, I just invest $100, for example, inside this project. Okay, next month you launch the game? No, I cannot launch the game because I have to work on the gameplay, to work on 3D effects, on user experience, user interface, etc., etc. And it's very long to any traditional games. It's not, you cannot launch a game in several weeks or several months. It's impossible. But so that's the most tricky part
so
for
you
us.
Scale it as you build, as people put the money in, and this is what makes it sustainable.
Exactly.
How do you address it, Nico, with the town hall and the decentralized autonomous organization?
Yeah, so the funding is very complex. I don't want to dig into that right now. But of course, I think it's important to have a business model. It's important to have a business model for the people that want to exploit it. And I think that that's something that was already happening like before blockchain. Like I remember I used to play Mu, I don't know how you call it, like MU, you know, that game like similar to Diablo, but with worse graphics. And we were like building up accounts and they're selling them in the market. And I think blockchain like really makes that transactional experience way easier in so many ways. And I think that's really valuable because if you have a game that also is built on top blockchain technology, then to canalize that market that happens alone, I think it's a really nice vehicle for that to happen.
This is amazing also for me because I see how one question leads seamlessly to the other. You want to add something?
Yes, I can add something, okay, just from the point of reflection. And another thing that is different about having smart contracts, coupled with the game, especially a multiplayer one, is that you can basically prevent the collapse of an economy. And I will tell you how it's done, because the auction house in Diablo 3, as we may remember, it was closed down, right? The economy of the game collapsed. At some point of time, like the items were just worth so much that it was not feasible for anybody else to play it because they couldn't get as far as they wanted to. And the user count just steadily, dropped to zero. And I think just by having the marketplaces and by having specific mechanics introduced into the game, such as maybe skill-based issuance, the time that you put into the game issuance of assets, perhaps some other type of community-driven issuance.
Sangho, if you agree or disagree?
If I can add to that, of course, that's a problem in games, right? So especially, with the play to earn, if you were late and you had to pay the premium, right? But we have blockchain technology, so it's perfectly fine to split the ownership into many, many pieces. So what we do is we allow, parts of ownership, we allow multiple persons to own an account. We have a multi-signature wallet integrated in our game, so there are multiple devices connected to it. You can split it perfectly fine amongst your family, your football team, your guild, whatever. So it's a mini DAO in the game. It also means that if you are not rich enough to buy an asset, and we hope we are there forever, right? So hopefully in 25 years, a simple NFT is maybe very expensive, and then you're late to the game, but you can still buy one piece of that NFT. You don't have to, buy the whole thing. And that allows for, fair access, easier access, et cetera, et cetera. So to add.
Exactly. That's exactly what I meant. There are certain qualities that actually improve on what is there already traditionally, has been tested and has failed, because we all learn from our mistakes, right? And part of it is for every company developing a game which is based on Web3 with the apps is that we are taking this into account. Like we want this economy to be flourishing, right? And how do we manage that, without making those mistakes of the people before us?
So before we get to the last question, we're good on time, but I have one more specific to Nico, because you also have a different approach to empowering digital creators, right? Decentraland must have been one of the first marketplaces where people can create NFTs and clothing and emojis as, on blockchain and then sell them. How do you see that model going forward?
Yeah, I think that's core to the Decentraland platform. I'm actually talking about this in the next keynote. So yeah, basically, like there are creators in the. Yeah, thank you. So basically, yeah, like there are many creators in the community, and they produce wearables. These are like maybe 3D modelers. You can build the modes. These are animators, so it's like another audience with a different skill set. We have developers and artists that they are building interactive scenes, and there are several models for them to actually get money. You can create things like wearables and emotes and sell them in the marketplace. The commission system is very in favor of the creator, like 97.5% goes for the creator. So if you compare with traditional marketplaces, like it's really beneficial for someone who's actually creating, is getting the most part. And there 2.5% is going to a DAO that now it's kind of freeze and it's evolving, but it has an interesting model as well to giving funding to other projects that ask for it. So if you have a good idea and you have a good team to execute it, then it's really likely that you can get funded by the DAO itself. You can, of course, you can go to crowdfunding platforms and all, but this is like within the central ecosystem, and that's very nice. And from the foundation, we're also building at the moment a creator rewards program where we can give funding to projects that really add value to the platform, connecting with artists in the real world. So yeah, it's like a whole ecosystem, and the short answer is it's key. I would say it's the key of the Decentraland. Yeah, the creators in the economy and its community, it's the core part of the Decentraland for sure, yes.
All right. So our last question is a bit tricky and difficult because many Web3 games talk about interoperability, allowing assets, identities, economies to move between different games. So this question flows into the networking session I hope that we will all have after your keynote. In practice, we've seen very few meaningful examples. So do you think, preempting our chat, could you play our land from Decentraland, or could you, transfer your assets from Cryptopia through, Kickdom to Decentraland? How do you see the interoperability? And do you have actual use cases for interoperability that excite you, and what needs to happen for this to become reality? The last one, so under 2 minutes each.
Yeah, I'll just start. So with the initial stages of our project development, we had been based off Immutable X, and this was a decision made with the lead game designer, Norbert. It was due to the Immutable X being
the leading empowering ecosystem.
Leading empowering ecosystem, yes. In order to avoid the costs when you are trading in between the game assets, right? So it was gasless, so that was the obvious choice. And as time grew up on the project, we decided to move our assets to Polygon. So right now we are also on Polygon, and you have the Matic there. So you can either purchase RAM or Matic and use it in the game in order to farm the on-chain resources that are encrusted into this game.
And Polygon suggests that you and Decentraland kind of have the same layer over which some assets could be transferred, or am I completely mistaken?
If we are on the same chain, then potentially, like some interactions could be faced, potentially. Right. But it's a decision that comes from the perspective of the game's economy. If Polygon does not deliver the kind of degree of community-driven engagement for the users of Polygon and for their journalists forward that they are doing, for maybe their partnerships with Google on the back end for the cloud support, or for any other reason, then we may choose to go on a different chain to do a migration.
Yeah. Okay. Sangho, what
Interoperability, yeah, yes, it's a difficult word. We believe absolutely in it. We try to do it with Ronin, so with the little fussy, you know what. We became a long way, but in the end they killed it because they didn't want to introduce something foreign into their ecosystem. So I think that's the big problem. You need to be open to other projects, and you need
We're
to.
open, decentralized, but this thing is ours, not yours,
Yeah,
right?
so it's difficult, but it's perfectly fine. And we are on Scale, Polygon, Base, BNB. You have layer 0 technology now, so you can easily go from old chains to other chains. So that's not really an obstacle anymore, or in the future it won't be an obstacle. It doesn't matter what chain you're on, because you can just use it. So it's more a matter of, do you really want to be open to other projects? And as you say, is it a danger to your economic stability? Because if you introduce high-level items from another game into your game, that can cause a problem unless you, of course, gate that and give the stats, translate the stats of that item into something useful in your game. As an example,
Not just
in our game,
item, but the stats and game
yeah,
experience
it's
and
easy
something
because
above it, yeah.
what we had is we have like a charisma and luck, but we don't have attack-based scores. So if you have a huge sword, well, we say you can use it in our game and walk around as a cosmetic. That's perfectly fine, but you can't use the attack because we don't have it. But we can translate the attack into luck or charisma, right?
Okay.
So it's from game. I think it's more of people are afraid.
It's early stages, and you can have killer whales infesting your ecosystem and slaying everybody.
Right. Just quick introduction. Like this
That's
is
very quick. I need to leave, guys, and yeah.
It's there already in Web2 games. Like there were some items, and you had different classes. The different stats translate to a different class, right? So it's already there in Web2, but in Web3, obviously, it's going to look a bit different, right? With all of those economies coupled together, and the fact that you need to think in advance.
Exactly. And Jerome, how do you see assets or skills of players and maybe other games imported or interoperable with Kingdom?
I really love this idea, and I believe with this opportunity to share assets and play and character, etc., between other games. But I think that for the moment, technically, it's a little bit tricky because on the blockchain part, it's easy because, as you said, if you are both on Polygon or BNB chain or something like that, there is no problem with that. But inside the game, it's not the same. Depending of if you are using Unity or we are using Unreal Engine, for example, depending, of course, of the branding of the game. If you are a game very realistic or like or very cubic, it's not you cannot integrate
like
this different type of character.
Skins between metaverses.
Exactly.
It didn't happen
So
yet, right?
for my opinion, for the moment, the 3D engine are not ready for that. The blockchain is ready, even if it's a very recent technology, but the 3D engine is not ready for that, and it can be very bizarre. I don't know how to say in English.
There is still
French.
things to do.
To integrate assets with different branding inside the game.
So I hope this event will
many
help us
works
kick
for-
things forward, so to say, kick the ball forward. To respect
Exactly.
you. Right, 2 minutes. Nico, would you like to wrap it up with your
I'll try to
cases
be-
for interoperability and actually flowing through to your keynote?
Yeah, I try to be swift. But basically, I totally agree with the panel. I think the potential is really there, but from my experience talking with many different projects, you still need to put some work. Like you need to connect to an API or I don't know, use the same standard. We're using Polygon as well. Perfect. Like that's one thing less to worry about, but that's not the end. Like there are many other things, like the avatar, the rig, the engine. Like there's too many things, and I still think like the industry is too fragmented into different blockchains, different technologies, and maybe we need some more standards. I don't know which ones those will be. So for instance, we have a use case in particular that is called link wearables. So if you own an NFT in an EVM compatible blockchain, so that's some limitation as well, but it's pretty open for EVM blockchains. You can have a representation of that as a wearable inside the Decentraland, and the only way to get it is to have the NFT. But that's like one use case, and I think there are like hundreds more that are ready to be explored.
So guys, we are perfectly on time, yet we are all early. So let's leave the stage for Nico with his keynote. Sorry, I'm not trying to steal your job, mate. But yeah, that's it for the the future designs, the gaming panel, moving the Web3 and Web2 gaming environment further. With our dear speakers, thank you all for your time and enjoy, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, hands together for all our panelists and our moderator as well.